Hello everyone, today we are going to learn Chapter 1 Natural Resources and Their Use Part 3 from your Social Science textbook. In this video, I'll be covering each and every line from the chapter so you don't miss anything important. Make sure to keep your notebook and pen ready and take notes while watching. This will help you remember the concepts better. You can pause or rewind any time to write things down. So, let's begin. Overexploitation of groundwater, a caselet from Punjab. A crisis has unfolded in the fertile plains of Punjab where groundwater resources have been severely depleted. Punjab was home to the Green Revolution that fed a large proportion of our population and contributed to India becoming self-sufficient in food. Today, the same state faces issues of sustainability. Nature has been exploited beyond regeneration, at least in the short term. However, this concern is not particular to Punjab. It affects many other states. So here, Punjab provides a clear example of how excessive use of natural resources can create long-term problems. During the Green Revolution, Punjab became one of India's leading agricultural states. Farmers adopted modern farming techniques such as high-yielding seeds, chemical fertilizers and large-scale irrigation, which significantly increased food production. However, crops like rice and wheat required huge amounts of water. To meet this demand, farmers increasingly depended on groundwater extracted through tube wells and bore wells. Groundwater is naturally recharged by rainwater slowly seeping into the soil and reaching underground water reserves. But in Punjab, groundwater began to be pumped out much faster than nature could replace it. As this continued year after year, groundwater levels started declining rapidly. Farmers had to dig deeper wells to access water, increasing cost and creating pressure on water resources. This situation is called overexploitation of groundwater, when groundwater is used at a rate faster than its natural replenishment. And this problem is not limited to Punjab alone. Many other states in India are also facing similar issues. Natural resources should be used wisely. Increasing production is important, but resources should be used in a way that allows nature enough time to regenerate them for future generations. In the 1960s, farmers shifted to high-yielding varieties of wheat and paddy. These required more water than the traditional seeds, and farmers began to extract groundwater to meet this need. In addition, the supply of free power led to the overpumping of groundwater, a situation still prevalent in much of India today. Modern farming techniques also require the use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers. So now let's understand how this groundwater problem started. In the 1960s, farmers began using high-yielding varieties, that is HYV of seeds, especially for wheat and paddy. High-yielding variety seeds, they are improved seeds designed to give higher crop production. These seeds produced more crops, but they also needed much more water than traditional seeds. So what did farmers do? They started extracting large amounts of groundwater. Tube wells and pumps were used continuously. Now, another important factor made this worse is the supply of free electricity. Because electricity was free, farmers pumped water without worrying about cost. This led to overpumping of groundwater. And this problem still exists in many parts of India today. There is one more issue, that is modern farming also required chemical fertilizers and pesticides. While these increased production, they also caused soil degradation and environmental problems. So increased food production is a positive effect, but it also had negative effects like groundwater depletion, soil damage and long-term sustainability issues. The combined effect of these factors is that the groundwater level in a large part of Punjab, see figure 1.17, has become inaccessible till depths of about 30 meters, and the chemicals from the pesticides and fertilizers have dissolved in the groundwater, causing health hazards. So, because of continuous overuse of groundwater, the water level has gone very deep underground In many areas, groundwater is now found at depths of about 30 meters or more. So farmers have to dig deeper wells and it becomes very expensive and difficult to access water. In some cases, water becomes almost inaccessible. And the bigger problem is the excessive use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. These chemicals seep into the groundwater and this contaminates the water. So, it can cause serious health problems and drinking polluted water is unsafe. So, what are the final effects? Water scarcity, increased cost of farming and health hazards. So, overuse of resources can harm both the environment and human life. Figure 1.15 Extraction of groundwater. So, what is groundwater? Groundwater is the water stored beneath the earth's surface. It is accessed using wells, tube wells or pumps. In this figure, you can see that water being drawn from underground using a pump. This water is mainly used for irrigation. And the next picture shows wet paddy fields. Paddy or rice is a crop that requires a lot of water. That's why the fields are kept flooded with water. In this image, you can see that water standing in the field. Young rice plants growing in wet soil. This is because growing paddy requires huge amounts of water. In many regions, farmers use groundwater for this. Almost 80% of the area of Punjab has been classified as overexploited. In other words, we have drawn water at a rate much greater than at which restoration and rejuvenation of groundwater is possible. So, in this, we can understand how serious the groundwater problem has become in Punjab. Today, almost 80% of Punjab's area is classified as overexploited. What is overexploited? It means we are using groundwater faster than it can be refilled. The rate of extraction is much higher than the rate of recharge. In simple words, we are taking out more water than nature can put back. So what happens? Groundwater levels keep falling. Wells go dry and need to be dug deeper. Water becomes difficult and expensive to access. If this continues, there may not be enough water for farming or daily use in the future. This is a warning sign that we are pushing natural resources beyond their capacity to regenerate. So, what should we do? We should use water carefully, reduce over-dependence on groundwater, practice rainwater harvesting and allow time for restoration and regeneration. This example clearly shows why sustainable use of resources is very important. We can see that food security was ensured for the short term, but the long-term consequences will take time and effort to heal. So, during the Green Revolution in India, India was able to achieve food security in the short term. This means we produced enough food to feed our population. It was a big success for the country. But there is another side to this story. To achieve this, they used natural resources very intensively. Groundwater, soil and chemicals were used excessively. So what happened? In the short term, we achieved benefits. That is, we produced more food production. But in the long term, it has created problems, resource depletion and damage. Now, these long-term problems are not easy to fix. Restoring groundwater takes time. Improving soil health also needs effort. Environmental damage cannot be reversed quickly. So, what is the lesson here? Development should not focus only on immediate benefits. We must also think about long-term sustainability. Only then we can ensure both present and future generations are safe. Next is figure 1.17 depth to water level map of Punjab and Chandigarh, June 2022. Here MBGL means meters below ground level. In other words, how deep we must dig below the surface to reach groundwater. So, through this map, we can see the groundwater situation in Punjab. And this shows the depth to water level in June 2022. The different colors on the map represent different groundwater depths. The dark blue areas show groundwater available at just 0 to 2 meters below ground level. This means water is very close to the surface. The medium blue regions indicate depths of 2 to 5 meters. The light blue color represents groundwater between 5 and 10 meters deep. These blue regions generally have relatively better groundwater availability. But as they move towards the other colors, the situation becomes more serious. The peach colored areas show groundwater depths between 10 and 20 meters. The red color regions indicate water levels between 20 and 40 meters below ground. And the dark red areas are the most critical, where groundwater is found at depths of more than 40 meters below ground level. This means farmers in these areas have to drill very deep bore wells to access water, showing severe groundwater depletion. So this map clearly reveals that many parts of Punjab are experiencing falling groundwater levels due to excessive extraction over many years. Figure 1.18, Jaisalmer Fort, Rajasthan, a mud structure built in the 12th century and refurbished later using sandstone. So, this is the Jaisalmer Fort in Rajasthan. It is very famous and it is very old fort that was built in the 12th century, which means around 800 years ago. The fort was originally made using mud, a natural material made from soil and cotton. Later, the fort was refurbished. It means the whole structure was repaired, improved or restored to make it stronger and better. For this repair work, people use sandstone. Sandstone is a type of rock formed from sand over a long period of time. It is commonly found in Rajasthan and is widely used in buildings there. The case of cement. We cannot imagine life without cement. Our houses, schools and hospitals and other buildings, bridges, roads and airports all require cement. The production of cement has been listed as one of the most polluting industries. The process of production releases fine dust that enters our lungs and those of animals, damaging them. Settles on leaves of plants, decreasing their yields and causes soil and water pollution too. The Central Pollution Control Board has created guidelines for cement factories to ensure that the pollution is minimized or eliminated. So now let's look at an important real life example, the case of cement. We use cement everywhere: houses, schools, hospitals, roads, bridges, airports. So cement is very important for development. But cement production is one of the most polluting industries. So let's understand how it causes pollution. During production, fine dust particles are released. These enter the lungs of humans and animals, causing health problems. The dust also settles on plant leaves. This reduces their ability to grow and decreases crop yield. It also leads to soil and water pollution. So, while cement helps in development, it also creates serious environmental and health issues. So, the Central Pollution Control Board has set guidelines. These rules ensure that pollution is reduced and factories use proper control measures. So, industries are important, but they must be environmental friendly. Development should go hand in hand with pollution control and sustainability. In addition, there is a move towards creating alternative materials that reduce pollution. These include the use of traditional materials like stone and mud, new plant-based materials and recycled materials from waste plastic. So today people are also trying to develop alternative materials that cause less pollution and are safer for the environment. Alternative materials or materials used instead of harmful or highly polluting materials. For example, people are once again using traditional materials like stone and mud in construction. These materials are natural, locally available and often more environment friendly. And we can use plant-based materials. These are made from natural resources like plants and they are biodegradable and reduce pollution. Then we have recycled materials. For example, using waste plastic to make construction materials. This helps reduce waste and pollution. So what is the benefit of all this? less pollution, better use of resources, and sustainable development. So this shows that we can meet our needs without harming the environment. Figure 1.19, a community building in Auroville constructed by Auroville Earth Institute, which holds the UNESCO chair for urban architecture. This modern building is made of mud using special techniques. This is a community building in Auroville, constructed by the Auroville Earth Institute, and this institute is known for promoting sustainable building techniques. It even holds a UNESCO chair for urban architecture. So, what is special about this building? It is made using mud, but not in a traditional simple way. It uses modern techniques to make mud strong and durable. Traditional materials like mud can still be used today. With the help of science and technology, they can become modern, strong, and eco-friendly. Traditional materials and methods are being combined with modern technological advances to create new materials that are sustainable. The process of production is less polluting, provides local employment, and is designed keeping in mind the climate of the place. So today we are not just choosing between the traditional or modern methods. We are combining both. Traditional materials like mud, stone, and natural fibers are now being used along with modern technology and scientific techniques. This combination helps us create new sustainable materials. So these materials are special. Their production causes less pollution, they are environmental friendly, and they also create jobs for local people because local materials and skills are used. And very importantly, they are designed according to the local climate. For example, buildings in hot areas are made to stay cool naturally. So, smart development means using traditional knowledge and modern technology. This helps us achieve sustainability, economic benefits, and environmental protection. Vriksha is an ancient Indian botanical science that focuses on the study and care of plants and trees. The term comes from Sanskrit with Vriksha meaning tree and Ayurveda meaning the science of life or health. This traditional knowledge system dates back several millennia and was formalized in texts such as Surapala's Vriksha Ayurveda around the 10th century CE. So now we are going to learn about an interesting ancient Indian knowledge system called Vriksha Ayurveda. The word comes from Sanskrit. Vriksha means tree and Ayurveda means science of life or health. So Vriksha Ayurveda is the science of caring for plants and trees. So Vriksha Ayurveda is an ancient Indian botanical science. It focuses on how to grow, protect, and maintain healthy plants. And this knowledge system is very old. It dates back thousands of years. It was formally written down in texts like Vriksha Ayurveda by Surapala around the 10th century CE. It has elaborate recommendations on the specific plants to be grown on different soil types and provides intricate methods for seed collection, preservation, and pre-planting treatments. Irrigation techniques are elaborately described with recommendations varying according to plant species, growth stage, and seasonal conditions. So, this ancient system gives very detailed guidelines for plant care. First, it tells us which plants should be grown in which type of soil because different plants need different soil conditions to grow well. Next, it explains about seeds, how to collect seeds properly, how to preserve them for future use, and even how to treat seeds before planting to improve growth. And it also gives detailed methods of watering plants. That is irrigation. Not all plants need the same amount of water. So irrigation is planned based on type of plant, stage of growth, that is young or mature plant, and seasonal conditions like summer, rainy season, etc. It specifies pest management strategies through natural repellents and plants that should be grown together. This form of sustainable agriculture promotes practices like crop rotation and mixed cropping to maintain soil health. Vriksha Ayurveda also offers advice on proper methods of plowing soil so as to retain soil moisture as well as facilitate the growth of living organisms in the soil like fungi, bacteria, and earthworms. So this ancient system gives us very advanced and sustainable farming methods. First, it talks about pest management. Instead of harmful chemicals, it suggests natural repellents. It also recommends growing certain plants together because some plants protect others from pests. This reduces damage naturally. It also talks about farming practices. It promotes crop rotation and mixed cropping. So what do these mean? Crop rotation means growing different crops in different seasons. Mixed cropping means growing multiple crops together. These methods help to maintain soil fertility, prevent soil exhaustion, and reduce pest attacks. So, Viksha Ayurveda also talks about soil care. It gives advice on proper plowing methods. Plowing is also very important because it helps retain soil moisture and it supports the growth of useful organisms like fungi, bacteria, and earthworms. These organisms make the soil healthy and fertile. So what is the main idea? This system promotes natural, balanced and sustainable agriculture. It protects soil, plants and the environment. A caselet from Sikkim. Pema's family farm in Sikkim faced declining yields and mounting debts from expensive chemical inputs. When the state government announced a policy to promote organic farming throughout the state, Pema's family decided to try. It was not an easy transition. Initially, the yields dropped as the soil was recovering from years of chemical use. Caselet means a short case study. It is a brief real-life example or story used to explain a concept. So let us now look at the story of Pema's family farm in Sikkim. For many years, Pema's family depended on chemical fertilizers and pesticides to increase crop production. But slowly they started facing two major problems: declining yields and increasing debt. Declining yields means the farm was producing less crop than before. And mounting debts means their loans and money problems were continuously increasing because chemical fertilizers and pesticides were expensive. At that time, the government of Sikkim introduced a new policy to promote organic farming across the state. Organic farming means growing crops using natural methods instead of chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Farmers use compost, manure, biofertilizers and natural pest control methods. Pema's family decided to switch to organic farming. But this change was not easy. In the beginning, crop production decreased even more because the soil had been exposed to chemicals for many years. The natural fertility and the healthy microorganism in the soil had been affected. So, when chemical use stopped, the soil needed time to recover and become healthy again. This period is called the transition period, the time taken to shift from chemical farming to organic farming. The family switched to compost, prepared natural pest repellents using neem and garlic and started growing multiple crops across the year. After about 5 years, Pema's farm was thriving. She was able to sell her cardamom, ginger and traditional vegetables at premium prices. In 2016, Sikkim became a 100% organic state with all of its farmland certified organic. So, Pema's family did not give up when they faced difficulties during the transition to organic farming. Instead, they adopted several natural farming practices. They started using compost instead of chemical fertilizers. Compost is a natural fertilizer made by decomposing organic waste such as food waste, fruit and vegetable peels, dry leaves, crop residues and animal manure. It returns nutrients to the soil and improves soil health without the need for chemical fertilizers. And to protect their crops from pests, they prepared natural pest repellents using ingredients like neem and garlic. A pest repellent is a substance that keeps harmful insects away from crops. Unlike chemical pesticides, these natural repellents are safer for the environment. The family also began growing multiple crops throughout the year instead of depending on a single crop, and this practice helped improve soil health, reduce risks and provide different sources of income. Their patience paid off. After about 5 years, the soil had recovered and the farm was thriving. Crop production improved and Pema was able to sell products such as cardamom, ginger and traditional vegetables. These organic products earned premium prices, meaning buyers were willing to pay more because the products were grown naturally without chemical inputs. And the success of farmers like Pema reflected a larger change happening across the state. In the year 2016, Sikkim became India's first 100% organic state, meaning all of its farmland was officially certified organic. It means the farms were inspected and verified to ensure that crops were grown according to organic farming standards without the use of synthetic chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Sikkim's achievement showed that with proper planning, patience and support, farming can be both productive and environmentally sustainable. The effects were transformational. Local biodiversity flourished with beneficial insects and birds returning. Tourism increased as visitors came to see the organic farming model and farmers' incomes grew by 20% on average. Today, Sikkim serves as a global model demonstrating that an entire region can successfully transition to sustainable agricultural practices while improving both ecological and economic outcomes. So, this shift to organic farming brought remarkable changes to Sikkim. The effects were transformational, which means they created major positive changes in the environment, economy, and society. One of the first benefits was the improvement of local biodiversity. Biodiversity refers to the variety of living organisms in an area, including plants, animals, birds, and insects. As the use of chemical pesticides decreased, many beneficial insects and birds returned. Beneficial insects or insects that help farmers by pollinating crops or controlling harmful pests naturally. Sikkim's success also attracted attention from around the world. As a result, tourism increased with visitors coming to learn about and observe the state's organic farming model. Farmers benefited as well. On average, their incomes increased by about 20% thanks to better prices for organic products and new opportunities linked to tourism. Today, Sikkim is recognized as a global model for sustainable agriculture. It is an example that an entire region can successfully transition to environmentally friendly farming practices while achieving both ecological benefits such as healthier ecosystems and greater biodiversity and economic benefits such as higher incomes and increased tourism. Next topic is responsible and judicious use of resources. In the case of non-renewables, we need to ensure that we use the resources so that they can last enough for humanity to find more sustainable alternatives. For example, we need to make the switch to renewable sources of energy for as many purposes as we can. So, not all natural resources can be replaced by nature quickly. Resources such as coal, petroleum and natural gas are called non-renewable resources because they take millions of years to form. Since these resources are limited, we cannot keep using them endlessly. If we use them too quickly, they may become scarce before we find better alternatives. That is why we need to use non-renewable resources carefully and efficiently so that they last as long as possible. At the same time, we should actively look for and adopt sustainable alternatives. A sustainable alternative is an option that can meet our needs without getting exhausted or causing major environmental damage. One important example is energy. Instead of relying heavily on fossil fuels like coal and petroleum, we should gradually switch to renewable sources of energy such as solar energy, wind energy, and hydropower. Renewable energy sources can be replenished naturally and are available again and again. By using them for electricity generation, transportation, and other purposes, we can reduce our dependence on non-renewable resources. This main message is simple. Use non-renewable resources wisely today while preparing for a future that depends more on renewable and sustainable sources of energy. Figure 1.21 satellite image of one of the largest solar parks in the world located in Rajasthan. It can generate enough electricity to power about 15% of the current needs of Rajasthan. So what you are seeing in this image is one of the largest solar parks in the world located in Rajasthan. A solar park is a large area covered with thousands of solar panels that capture sunlight and convert it into electricity. Unlike coal and petroleum, sunlight is a renewable resource. It is available every day and does not get exhausted when we use it. Solar energy also produces electricity without releasing large amounts of air pollutants or greenhouse gases. The scale of this solar park is so massive that it can generate enough electricity to meet about 15% of Rajasthan's current electricity needs. This means that a significant portion of the state's homes, schools, hospitals, industries and businesses can be powered using clean energy from the sun. So this solar park is an excellent example of how renewable energy can help reduce our dependence on non-renewable resources such as coal and natural gas. Figure 1.22 Solar farm near Raichur, Karnataka. Solar farms are usually smaller than solar parks, which are much larger projects that may include several solar farms and other facilities for transmitting electricity. And this is a solar farm located near Raichur in Karnataka. The International Solar Alliance, India's leadership in renewable energy. India and France launched the International Alliance for Solar Energy IASE in 2015, a coalition of sunshine-rich countries committed to harnessing solar power. The alliance focuses on countries blessed with abundant sunlight throughout the year. India has channeled billions of dollars into solar projects across developing nations, sharing technical expertise and creating affordable financing options. The Bhadla Solar Park is a symbol of India's solar ambitions, demonstrating how a country can transition from traditional energy sources to renewable alternatives. For Indians, this alliance represents both environmental responsibility and economic opportunity. So, in the year 2015, India and France came together to launch the International Alliance for Solar Energy, IASE. This is a group of countries that work together to promote the use of solar energy. The alliance mainly focuses on sunshine-rich countries, countries that receive abundant sunlight throughout the year and therefore have great potential for generating solar power. The goal of the alliance is to encourage the use of clean and renewable energy, reduce dependence on fossil fuels, and make solar technology more accessible. India has played an important role in this effort. It has helped support solar projects in developing countries by sharing technical knowledge, expertise, and helping arrange affordable financing for solar energy projects. A major example of India's commitment to solar energy is the Bhadla Solar Park in Rajasthan, one of the largest solar parks in the world. It demonstrates how a country can gradually move from traditional energy sources such as coal and petroleum to renewable sources like solar power. For India, this alliance is important for two reasons. First, it promotes environmental responsibility by encouraging clean energy and reducing pollution. And second, it creates economic opportunities by generating jobs, attracting investment, and supporting the growth of the renewable energy sector. So, the International Alliance for Solar Energy is not just about producing electricity from sunlight, it is also about international cooperation, sustainable development, and building a cleaner future. Even as we deal with these issues, we must be mindful that the distribution and access to resources, including basic ones like water and clean air, is often unfair to some sections of society. In cities, many areas do not receive adequate and regular supply of drinking water. Air pollution caused by industries and excessive use of fossil fuels affects those who are unable to protect themselves from these hazards. So, when we talk about natural resources, we must not only think how much of a resource is available, but we must also think about who has access to it. Resources such as clean water and clean air are basic necessities for everyone. However, their distribution is often not fair. For example, in many cities, some neighborhoods receive a regular supply of safe drinking water, while others face water shortages and may receive water only for a few hours a day. This means that not everyone has equal access to this essential resource. A similar problem exists with air quality. Air pollution caused by factories, vehicles, and the burning of fossil fuels affects everyone, but its impact is often greater on people who cannot easily protect themselves. For instance, families living near industrial areas or busy roads may be exposed to higher levels of pollution. They may not have the resources to move elsewhere or use expensive air purifying systems. This shows that environmental issues are also issues of fairness and equality. Every person should have access to clean water, clean air, and a healthy environment, regardless of where they live or how much money they have. So, sustainable development is not only about protecting natural resources, it is also about ensuring that these resources are shared fairly and are accessible to all sections of society. We must remember our relationship with nature and act as stewards of natural resources toward restoration, regeneration, and sustainability. The Bhagavad Gita refers to Lok Sangraha, the idea that everyone must transcend personal desires and act for the well-being of all. Has the time come for us to consider this seriously? So, after learning about groundwater, organic farming, and renewable energy, we come to perhaps the most important lesson, our relationship with nature. Human beings are not separate from nature. We depend on nature for air, water, food, energy, and countless other resources. Therefore, we have a responsibility to care for these resources, not just use them. The word steward is important here. A steward is someone who looks after something carefully and responsibly on behalf of others. So, being stewards of natural resources means using and protecting nature's resources wisely so that future generations can also benefit from them. Restoration, regeneration, and sustainability. Restoration means repairing damage that has already been done. Regeneration means allowing nature to recover and renew itself. Sustainability means meeting our needs today without harming the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Then we have a beautiful idea from the Bhagavad Gita called Loka Sankhara. It means working for the welfare and well-being of all people rather than thinking only about our own personal interest. It teaches us to look beyond our immediate desires and consider how our actions affect society, future generations, and the natural world. And it is time for us to consider this seriously. We must reflect on the environmental challenges we face today, such as pollution, climate change, groundwater depletion, and the loss of biodiversity, and ask ourselves whether we need to change the way we use natural resources. So, the message is clear. If we want to have a healthy planet in the future, we must act responsibly today, not only for ourselves, but for everyone. Before we move on, natural resources are materials and substances that occur in nature and are valuable to humans. So, what we learned so far? Everything we use in our daily lives comes from nature in one form or another. The water we drink, the air we breathe, the soil that grows our food, the minerals used to make our phones, and the sunlight that provides energy are all gifts to nature. These materials and substances that occur naturally in the environment and are useful to human beings are called natural resources. A resource becomes valuable because it helps us meet our needs. For example, water is needed for drinking, farming, and industries. Soil helps us grow crops. Forests provide timber, fruits, medicines, and habitat for wildlife. Minerals are used to make medicines, vehicles, and electronic devices. Sunlight and wind can be used to generate electricity. So, natural resources or materials and substances that occur in nature and are valuable to humans because they help us live, grow food, build things and meet our daily needs. There are different ways of categorizing resources, renewable and non-renewable or useful categories. So, there are many types of natural resources. To study them more easily, we group or categorize them into different categories. One of the most useful ways of categorizing resources is based on whether they can be naturally replenished or not. So, this gives us two important categories: renewable resources and non-renewable resources. Renewable resources are resources that can be replenished or renewed by nature within a relatively short period of time. Examples: sunlight, wind, water and forest. Since these resources can be replaced naturally, they can continue to be available if used responsibly. Non-renewable resources are resources that take millions of years to form and cannot be replaced quickly once they are used up. Example: coal, petroleum, natural gas and minerals. Because these resources are limited, they must be used carefully and conserved. So, by classifying resources into renewable and non-renewable, we can better understand how they should be used and managed for the future. The resource curse can be overcome through investments in the development of technology and skills. So, you might think that a country with lots of natural resources would automatically become rich and prosperous, but that is not always the case. The situation is known as the resource curse. The resource curse occurs when a country has abundant natural resources such as oil, minerals or natural gas, but does not achieve broad economic development because it depends too heavily on those resources. Instead of investing in education, technology, industries and skilled workers, the country may rely mainly on income from its natural resources. As a result, economic growth can become unbalanced. So, how can the resource curse be overcome? The key is to invest in technology and skills. Technology helps countries use resources more efficiently and create new products and industries. Skills and education help people develop expertise, innovate and contribute to different sectors of the economy. When a country invests in its people and technology, it becomes less dependent on simply extracting and selling raw resources. It can create more jobs, develop industries, and build a stronger and more sustainable economy. So, in simple words, natural resources alone do not guarantee prosperity. What matters is how wisely a country uses those resources and whether it invests in the knowledge and skills of its people. We need to become vigilant about the rate at which we use renewables so as not to overexploit them. Judicious and wise use of non-renewables will enable stretching their use for a longer period of time. So, many people think that renewable resources can never run out because nature can replace them. But that is not entirely true. If we use renewable resources faster than nature can replenish them, they can also become depleted. This is called overexploitation. For example, groundwater is a renewable resource because rainwater can recharge it. However, if we keep pumping out groundwater faster than it is replenished, groundwater levels will fall, just as we saw in Punjab. That is why the text says we must be vigilant about the rate at which we use renewable resources. So, vigilant means being careful, watchful and alert. We should constantly monitor how much of a resource we are using and make sure nature has enough time to replace it. So, non-renewable resources such as coal, petroleum and natural gas cannot be replaced quickly. So, we should use them judiciously and wisely. Judicious use means using resources carefully, responsibly and without waste. When we avoid unnecessary consumption, improve efficiency, recycle materials and switch to renewable alternatives whenever possible, non-renewable resources can last for a longer period of time. So, the message is simple. Use renewable resources at a sustainable rate and use non-renewable resources carefully and efficiently. This will help protect resources for future generations. So with this, we have completed the part 3 of the chapter Natural Resources and Their Use. I hope you found it easy to understand. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. We will see you again in our next video. Bye bye.